Welcome back, one and all, to the Talking Philly Sports with Matty B program here on the Edge of Philly Sports with your boy Matty B. Finally back. Wow, it's been like a minute since I've been on the air. It's been a minute since I've done this show. Programming, shuffles over the last week because of the Eagle game on Monday Night Football last week prevented me from doing the show. And then, of course, the fact that we ended the season with that game, so there was no Birds Blast this past weekend. We won't do another Birds Blast until the end of the season, which will be Super Bowl. Me and Kyle will come back on around February, I think 17th, and we will wrap up the NFL season and the Eagle season, X's and O's. So don't fear if that's what you're waiting for. But for this show, it has been a hot minute that I've had the opportunity to come and sit down and talk with you, and I'm glad to be back. It is Monday, January the 22nd, 2024. And we do have a lot to talk about as we sit here in this late January. The NFL the NFL divisional round is complete. We know the championship teams matchups and date, time, group, and all. Tell you with one thing certain: the Philadelphia Eagles are not involved, and none of these games will be played in Philadelphia or in the Philadelphia region. And we're going to get into that, and we're going to get into what's next, and we're gonna try to dissect a little bit. I'm gonna vent to you a little bit about my frustration with this Philadelphia Eagle fan base, and this frustration with members of this network, the Edge of Philly Sports, that has reached a fever pitch for me because I can't take the homerism anymore. It's almost as if I'm getting cavities all over my teeth by listening to some of this dreck that's coming out of the mouths of these people. And then not just EOP, mind you, but a lot of Eagle fans in general. And, the question I'm going to have for everybody tonight is, when do we sink this low as a fan base? When do we accept this type of result or this type of stagnation as acceptable for this football team? We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about what's next and what does this team do. There's been some news over the last 24 hours that we'll address, and we'll try to make sense of it. I don't know if I can make sense of this crap anymore. I can't. I don't know if it's a done deal, and maybe my time as a Philadelphia Eagle fan might be coming to an end, because I can't take it anymore, man. I can't take, nor can I deal with the incompetencies of the management of this team when it comes to certain aspects, and I can't take this fan base. This fan base is not the fan base that I was indoctrinated into as a child. It's not. It's extremely soft. It's extremely apologetic. It wants to believe things that are not there. It wants to accept fantasy versus the hard reality. And it's becoming to it's getting me to a point where I just want to leave it all behind and just not root for a football team, because I would never switch. But I'm just really sickened by the Philadelphia Eagle fan base and this network and some of the people that reside here, because of some of the talking yourself into some things, and some of the rose-colored, or I should say green-colored crap coming out of people's mouths. It's reached a new low, in my opinion, and we'll get into all that here momentarily on this show. Daniel Berry checks in. Daniel, hello, what's up, man? And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into some Philadelphia Flyers hockey, as well as things have kind of taken a different turn for the Flyers after a very impressive 5-game winning streak. The Flyers are now currently on a 2-game losing streak, and it's not necessarily they've lost 2 games in a row, but it's the way they've lost that's very reminiscent of yesteryear, and very reminiscent of the way this team has somewhat kind of been in the very recent past. And we'll get into some of that as we stream towards the NHL All-Star break. And then, of course, right after that is the trade deadline. I think the last time actually we spoke on this program was probably, it was right after the Cutter Gauthier trade. No, that wasn't on this program. It was on the post game. See, I can't even keep it straight anymore. But it's been a minute since I had the opportunity to do this show. But I'm glad to be back. And so buckle up, Buttercup, because we're going to go on a rough ride starting now here on the program. And we're going to get it kicked off as we do every week here on the show. And that is your day in Philadelphia sports history. And I'm going to go to the hardwood for this one, because back on this day in 1992, the Sixers and a former Sixer great, was etched into the record books. when you think rebounds, right? When you think of the rebounding record for the Philadelphia 76ers, what name kind of jumps into your mind? Mine is Wilt Chamberlain, right? I mean, the guy was decades above or decades ahead of any of his contemporaries at the time. Was just head and shoulders above, literally above everybody else in the league. And you would think that he was the one that currently holds the Sixer rebounding record, but that's not the case, because on this night in 1992, Charles Barkley, that's right, and I believe his final year as a Sixer, I think he was dealt at the trade deadline that season, snagged his 6,642nd rebound, putting himself in first place as the all-time rebounding king in Philadelphia 76er history. And, unfortunately, when you look back at Chuck's legacy here with the team, he's probably the first player really that kind of springs into mind, and there's been a million of them since, that really was just wasted here. His talents and what he brought to the court maybe showed up about 5 years too late to catch the ride the Sixers were on. Languished with some bad teams throughout the 80s. Some, playoff teams, yes, but not really anything that were going to compete for a championship. And his skill set, which was, again, innovative and ahead of its time, went to waste a little bit. And then he was eventually moved on to Phoenix, where he did have the opportunity, I think, to play in a couple of one finals, and it bounced around a little bit, ended up in Houston at one point. But on this night, Charles Barkley set the all-time Philadelphia 76er rebounding record in 1992. So that is your day in Philadelphia sports history. And tonight that was brought to you by Dolan's down there on 24 East Sellers Ave in Ridley Park, PA, for Quizzo music, great times, and giveaways. Check out the folks at Dolan's, because you never know who might fall through the front door or walk through, depending on what time of the night or day of the week it is. So head on down to Dolan's right now. Well, not right now. Wait till I'm done, and then skedaddle on down there. So let's get to the main event, right? The ire, the burr in their saddle, so to speak, and that is, of course, your Philadelphia Eagles. Since the 32-9 uninspiring, disastrous loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, thus ending the Eagles season and maybe concluding the second worst collapse in franchise history, I do have the unfortunate ability to be present and physically and mentally present during the 94 season and watching that thing kind of unravel at 7-2 and then finishing 7-9 to wrap up the season and not make the playoffs. This is a close second. I've heard a lot of people compare it and say, well, it's worse than 94. It's not, in my mind. There's nothing like losing 7 straight games to end your season. The Eagles didn't do that. They lost 6 out of 7, but still, they still got a game in there as a win, and did make the playoffs as well. So I'm going to still give 94 its due as the worst collapse in Philadelphia Eagle history, as Rich Kotite was fired after that debacle. But unlike that debacle, apparently our head coach ain't getting fired. And I guess I'll start with that. All right, I'll start with the Nick Sirianni effect here, as reports now that the Eagles are the Eagles. All right, Freddie, let's do it, man. You're being facetious. I know you are, man, because you really don't. I mean, I'm not saying you don't want Howie fired, and I'm sure you do, Fred, on some sort of subconscious level that you're afraid to tell your Gestapo friends about. But here's the thing: if you really mean it, of course, come on up the hill. We have plenty of room up there, and you're always welcome. So, but yeah, fire Howie indeed. Freddie says Richie the K. Yeah, he was a disgrace, actually a big disgrace. But then again, it kind of leads me back to Nick Sirianni. What's the difference? Can anybody tell me the difference right now between Nick Sirianni and Rich Kotite? Can anybody tell me the difference? I mean, and again, I know 94 is not what you would call a context of history that a lot of people have. I get that. And X's and O's wise, they're pretty much the same kind of guy. Neither one of them understood anything about situational football, understood anything about making in-game adjustments, and did not understand anything about, rotational players for rotational situations. Neither one of them understood that. So why did Kotite get fired after a historical collapse? And, Nick Sirianni's still here. I really am interested in that. And Freddie chimes in and says, one went to a Super Bowl. Okay. What the hell does that mean? He went to a Super Bowl. What does that trophy look like? Are referring to the NFC Championship trophy that we won last year? That's great. He's also gone to 3 straight playoff appearances. That's great. But what does that got to do with anything? Who said it? Jerry Glanville. The NFL stands for not for long. All right. Again, what does that have anything to do with what he did in 2022 to what happened in 2023? Because if you think it's the coordinators, if you think it's a matter of firing Sean Desai, which that seems to be the biggest news in town today, didn't that happen like 2 months ago? Didn't the guy get fired 2 months ago? Who cares? What, was there anybody out there that thought Sean Desai was sticking on with the team? I mean, come on, that wasn't news. And then potentially firing Brian Johnson, but they're not going to fire Brian Johnson, right? He's going to potentially they're hoping he gets a head coaching job so they don't have to fire him. But at the end of the day, they probably will fire him. But what does it matter, right? What the hell does any of that matter about bringing in 2 new coordinators? What are they going to do? And if they're so damn important, and if having a competent defensive coordinator and a competent offensive coordinator are so damn important, then who cares what happens to Nick Sirianni? What does he do? What is Nick Sirianni's job on this team? Right, as the head coach, if Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie are so connected or burned into the fact that it was the coordinators, that it was the rotations and the play calling, then why in the hell is Nick Sirianni here? And what does that say about Howie and Jeff? What does that say about what the Philadelphia Eagles are? Because some of the big talk early on, and by the way, finally, I guess the Eagles are going to address this on Wednesday. They're going to have their end of season press conference 9 days after their season ended, which again, you tell me that I don't understand the math there either. And if there was doubt in what Nick Sirianni's fate was with this team, what does it tell you about Howie and Jeff? And get back to my first point first. With the candidates of head coaching that have been floating around there this year, and there's a few big names. Was there anybody out there who really thought any of those big name guys? Mike Tomlin, of course, never really made it there because he ended up signing that extension. But the Bill Belichick's, the Mike Vrabels of the world, or any of those guys could fit here? Did anybody really think they were coming here to toil underneath Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie? I mean, would you do that as an established NFL head coach? Would you come here and be a puppet to a guy that understands nothing about drafting players and apparently or signing free agents to an owner that advocates all this? Would you want to come here for that? No, of course you wouldn't. So even if Nick Sirianni did get fired, which I'm still crossing my fingers that does happen because that's one head of the snake that's dead for me. And then all I got to do is work on the other one. But even if Nick Sirianni does get fired, who was really going to come in here and be his replacement? And really, what changes were really going to happen there? Nothing. It was going to be the same thing because the problems with this team lie not with the head football coach. They lie not with the defensive and offensive coordinator. They lie with the upper management of this team. As long as Howie Roseman is the GM, and apparently now, and I guess I got to get in on this, Jeff Lurie is the owner, this is what it's going to be. This is what it is going to be, Philadelphia. It is going to be a philosophy of a general manager who decides that he's going to literally strip down a roster year to year and rebuild it year to year and pray to God that I catch lightning in the bottle and we make another Super Bowl run. Or I'll just strip it on down and go again. It's going to be the philosophies of a general manager who does not understand how to draft football players. And again, if I really I have a spreadsheet that lays it all out. I don't want to get into that yet, but I will here eventually. The man does not know how to draft. The man has not had any success, long-term sustained success in drafting players. Well, let's take a look at his last 2 first-round picks. Jordan Davis, again, making excuses for this guy. Last season, we said, oh, he was, maybe he just ran out of some steam at the end of the season. Well, what about the excuse for this year? What happened to him in this year's second half? I believe he went on record by saying he got tired too, right? Jalen Carter came in like a bull, went out like a lamb, all right? Jalen Carter disappeared. And you know why? Teams made adjustments to him, and Jalen Carter didn't make adjustments to teams, and his defense didn't make adjustments for him. So don't get me started on the Kobe Dean. Don't get me started on the litany of other draft picks that have not worked out here. But we're going to continue to run this thing out every year. Why? Why? Because we want to believe. We want to believe that we're not that franchise. We want to believe that we're okay, that we're not dysfunctional, that the mighty Philadelphia Eagles are above everything else that's happening to other NFL franchises. Well, guess what, Philadelphia? And guess what, Edge of Philly Sports? We're not. Right? We are a dysfunctional organization. We are run by two controlling people who will never relinquish power to the football team. So they should come up out of the booth and they should come down on the field and assume their proper positions as head coaches. Or as a Philadelphia Eagle friggin' fan base, we should stop it. Stop supporting this madness and stop advocating it. And stop, for the love of God, making excuses for the reason why Nick Sirianni coming back would be great. What the hell are you talking about? He lost the locker room. He lost the team. Everybody on this football team quit on him at the end of the season. But yeah, let's run him back out there next year so we can talk this narrative in October when they're 1-5. For what? So that we can go to bed at night and we can feel comfortable and good that this organization's not a friggin' dumpster fire. Is that what we're going to do? Or am I going to listen to, we went to the Super Bowl in 2022. Well, guess what, Freddie Burns and everybody else out there who wants to rally around that flag? There's going to be 58 Super Bowls played as of this year. We won one out of 58. So you can take me, let's go to Super Bowl 39. Let's go back to Super Bowl 15. We've lost those. We've won one Super Bowl in the last 58 Super Bowls. So you tell me again what anybody in this organization deserves, to include Howie Roseman. But we're going to run it back. We're going to take it retro style. We're going to bring him back, allegedly. Nothing's official yet. And then we're going to sit there and we're all going to, it's not a good look if we keep firing head coaches. Why not? We don't got the right one. When's it going to be not a good look when we start firing that fraud Howie Roseman? Kick his ass out of this town so we can liberate our football team. That is my number one question. Wake up, Philadelphia, and let's understand that your team is being held hostage. It's being held hostage. Our team, our football team, not Howie's team, not Jeffrey's team, not Nick Sirianni's team. Our team is being held hostage, and we need to free them. And reality is the way you do that. Accepting things the way they are, that this team is a dumpster fire. This organization is a dumpster fire. Everything they do doesn't work. Or we're going to continuously run things back. I don't know. I really don't know. Colin says it's management. Yeah, damn right it's management. Absolutely. Freddie wants to say, or was it Jalen Hurts? Now, what's the report now? I saw on Bleeding Green Nation today. Jalen Hurts is a prima donna that's unapproachable. Oh, no. Anybody see that coming? But I thought he had a great work ethic. Even though every single time you see him on the sidelines, he's just sitting there staring off into space. And I'll never forget this. I'll never forget it because I was sitting right here. Big Al, on one of the post-game shows we did, I believe it was the Bills, maybe the Chiefs. What was the one that came back late? It was in overtime. What was that game? That was the Bills game? Sat there and said, when they panned over to Jalen Hurts sitting on the sidelines, he was just kind of like, he wasn't showing any emotion. He was stoic. He was controlled. No, he wasn't. He was unattached. He didn't care because he was unapproachable and he's above being coached. But no, we want to spin it opposite and say, no, man. That's just the way he is. He's stoic. You know, he's a piece of stone. He doesn't get moved. So listen, I don't know the validity of that report. And we just dealt with one of those, didn't we, in Carson Wentz? And now we're locked to this guy long term too. So more and more things are now starting to kind of come out. And on Wednesday, the Philadelphia Eagles will run out the obligatory end of season press conference where they'll make excuses. Now, if anyone's got the stones to ask the question directly, why is the guy sitting next to Howie still have a job? Or in that aspect, why is Howie still have a job? I'll be very impressed. But I probably won't happen too, because the Eagle beat writers are a bunch of pussies too, and they won't ask the hard questions. They won't ask the questions that need to be answered about this football team. Why should we accept this year after year after year? Eagles have won 29 games over the last 2 seasons. And what have they got to show for it? What have they got to show for it right now? They got nothing. They're out of the playoffs right now. They're sitting home. They're watching teams. And then somebody on EOP had the audacity to talk smack about the 49ers. Why in the hell would you do that, man? The 49ers are in the championship game. Regardless if you like it or not, we're not. How are you going to talk smack when our team is sitting home? I don't get that, man. I don't. And maybe I'm being one-sided and too one-sided about it and too extreme about it. I don't know. But that's not the fan base that I was indoctrinated into many moons ago. So wake up, Philadelphia. Wake up and understand there's a problem with your football team that's not going to go away this year. We have 19 pending free agents. 19! We had 18 pending free agents last year. We have 19 pending this year. This year's list is a little bit more spicy than last year's because now it's got a few all-time Eagles on it. There's a few all-time Eagles that are going to potentially enter free agency or retire. So once again, we're going to go back to this roster stripping of rebuilding this team. What is 19? Almost half of our roster is going to be a free agent or potentially want to retire at the end of this season. That's amazing. And then we're coming off of a season last year where there was 18 of them. Oh, and by the way, this guy is a free agent this year. Let's talk about that for a second, shall we? Let me jump into that for a second. What the hell is that? What is Jason Kelce doing? Let me ask you this. All of Philadelphia seems to be kind of split down the middle on this. What happened if Travis Kelce was playing for the Dallas Cowboys and Jason Kelce was out there wearing the Cowboys gear doing that crap? How would we react to that? Why isn't Jason Kelce pondering retirement? Or why isn't he pondering what happened to the season? Why is he not feeling that kind of sting and pain we do? You know why he's not? Because he don't care. He doesn't care like we do. It's not his team. It's our team. So if you don't get pissed off by seeing that nonsense, I don't know what to say to you. Is it part of that new Eagle fan thing that's okay for Jason Kelce to be donning Kansas City Chiefs gear and acting the fool at a Buffalo Bill game? Less than a week after he came out, he showed more energy in that clip than he did the entire playoff game. But does anybody have any problems with that? Am I speaking out of school here? How many people are pissed off about that? Because I am. It tells me everything I want to friggin' know about it, about the status of this team. They're not in it for each other, and they certainly are not in it for us. They're in it for themselves. They're in it for their self-gratification. They're in it for their self-promotion. They're in it to pad their nests. Is that what type of fans, is that what type of players we as fans should support? People that are in it for themselves? It's disgraceful. And again, what if Travis played for the Cowboys? How would you react to that too? Jason Kelce wearing Cowboy gear at a Cowboys game doing that. How would you react? Is there any difference? To me, there's not. It's pandering. It's self-promotion. It's despicable. And we should be ashamed of it. There's much bigger problems in this team than just the coach, folks. There's much bigger problems on this team other than the coach. Pat Bernard says, "Hey, Matt. Hey, Pat. How are you?" Freddie says, "How dare you forget?" I'm so sorry, Fred. Those things predate me, man. All right. I'm sorry, dude. I'm not going that far back. But let's keep it in the Super Bowl era. All right. But you're right, Fred. They did win 2 other championships. Denard Wilson was a major mistake here. The offense will be fine once the quarterback can audible into a hot route instead of a vertical. Okay. Listen, the offense is okay. Listen, Fred, let's look at that. You're mentioning a lot of different moving pieces here. Can the quarterback audible into a hot route instead of a vertical? Can the quarterback read the defense? Because I don't think he can. Right? Well, let's look at Jalen Hurts' body of work over the last 3 years or 4 years. What was it? 21, 22, 23 years. 21, he kind of gets thrown in there at the end. You know, oh, he's a new gimmick player. The Carson Wentz nonsense. Season's over anyway. Blah, blah, blah. 2021, or it was 2021. First year as a starter. Listen, what was the biggest thing on him? He can't read defenses, right? It was exposed by Todd Bowles down in Tampa Bay at the end of the season in the playoffs. I mean, it was known, but really was exposed in that game. And then last year, for some odd reason or some miracle of a reason, call it Shane Steichen, but Steichen was here in 21 as well. But I don't know what happened in 22, but he caught lightning in the bottle. Whoa, that's an interesting term that this team doesn't seem to rely on. And he had an MVP type season. But then this season, let's not give the offense a complete pass on this, right? From day one, they were not good. From day one, they were different. From day one, they were a step slower, a step behind, a step just not there. And what was the early excuses I had to hear from them damn Homer Eagle fans? Oh, well, you can't have it every way. You can't blow everybody out. No, of course you can't. But you can have competent offensive football. And Jalen was showing signs of not being able to do that at the early outsets of this season. He was having problems reading defenses again. And then he was turning the ball over at an epic rate. What did he lead the league in interceptions? So you mentioned if the quarterback can audible into a hot route instead of a vertical, that's great if he can. Absolutely. But that's a big if right now. That's a huge if. That is a huge if he can do that. And I don't know if we should rely on that, right? What was another biggest thing? The going rogue stuff. How much now I'm hearing that the rogue thing was happening all the time, or not all the time, but it happened more than the one segregated incident. What is that? And what does that tell you about the head coach? And why should that guy still be here? I mean, I'm just telling you, there are so many issues with this team right now. It goes beyond the coordinators. Freddie says, dude that wrote the article is 4 years to the day as when started. Yeah, okay. The man's got some insight, man. That's what I can say. Yes, I need the Northeast piece. No, I would never go on that show. What was that thing called? PM in the PM or PM up the ass? What is that thing called? PM in the AM, AM in the PM? I ain't going on that thing. I can't deal with you guys together, you and Mike. No way. I don't know, Pat. We'll work something out, man. Pat says he totally agrees. He was acting gritty 2.0 yesterday and wants to do podcasting and partying with his brother. Real captains don't act like that. No, they certainly don't, Pat. And they don't act like A.J. Brown did this year by hijacking the media or hijacking the locker room. They don't act like Darius Slay does by, hijacking with his podcast. That's not what captains do. Absolutely not. Freddie says blasphemy on Kelce. The hell you say. To hell you say. That man is a disgrace to this team. He's a disgrace to this city for what he did. Put it down on tape. I'm going to say it because we would not tolerate that would we tolerate that if it was Travis played for the Dallas Cowboys? Why isn't he feeling the pain and the slings and the arrows that I'm feeling and that we all as an Eagle fan base are feeling? Is that the way he's kind of moving on with his life by chugging beers in Buffalo with Taylor Swift? Is that his way of coping? And if it is, then I apologize for this rant. Then go on with yourself there, Jason Kelce. But in my opinion, that's not what a captain does. That's not what an all-time Eagle do. Would Seth Joyner be in that box, partying like that, rooting for another team that his brother played for? Would any all-time Eagle, would Brian Dawkins be doing that with another fan base? Would he? No. That's an all-time Eagle. Those individuals are all-time Eagles. Jason Kelce is a panderer. Jason Kelce is trying to build his name and his brand for his afterlife, which is fine, but he's doing it at our expense, and he's making us and this city look foolish in the process. So blasphemy to hell you say, Freddie Burns. Jalen was doing what hurts all season. Right, and you mentioned being able to audible and to not throw a vertical but throw a hot route. What makes you think, Freddie Burns, that Jalen Hurts is going to figure that out next season? Freddie laughs. What's going to make you think that he's going to switch that? Pat said he had Chiefs gear on. It is a violation, Pat. Absolutely. And I mentioned earlier, if you weren't here, what if Travis played for the Cowboys? What if Travis Kelce played for the Cowboys? And that was Jason up in the skybox with Jerry Jones wearing Cowboy gear. What then? Would we give him a pass then there, Fred Burns? Would that not be a violation? Huh? But is it okay because it's the Chiefs and Taylor Swift and all that garbage? Is that not a violation? Only maybe if he was a Cowboy fan? Come on, man. It's garbage, all of it. He's a Philadelphia Eagle. He's supposed to be a leader on this team, and he's supposed to be an all-time Eagle. And that's how he goes out? Is that the last image of Jason Kelce that I'm going to have? Is him bare-chested with a Kansas City Chiefs hat on, drunk in Buffalo? Is that what his bust in Canton, Ohio is going to look like? Is it? Come on, man. What are we doing? I've been blaming Hurts most of the year in my limited shows. Yes, you have. And it's a problem, Fred. And it's a problem. And now I have to close the loop on something. I'm going to get off the soapbox here. I'm going to stop ranting on like a madman. And I'm going to get into finish up my plan to fix the Eagles. Now, I launched this way back when, months ago, maybe towards like the back end of the season, where I had a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. And now I'm unveiling tonight my plan D for a new GM and new coach. Now, it looks like I'm going to get neither wish, because it looks like both of those tool bags are going to be retained, at least for another year. But let's remind the folks at home, this is what I wanted. This is how I wanted this thing to go down. This was my plan A. That's right. These were my new GM and my first choice for new GM and my first choice for new head coach, Adam Peters and Mike Tomlin. Now, Tomlin, of course, has been retained by the Steelers, and Peters is probably going to find a new job somewhere else as a new GM. He was the assistant GM with the 49ers. This was my plan B. Eric Bieniemy as my head coach and Jeff Ireland as my GM. Ireland is currently working in the New Orleans Saints system as an assistant GM. Bieniemy was part of Ron Rivera's old staff. Then before that was in Kansas City with Andy. But that was my plan B to fix this team. My plan C was Mike Bergonzi from the Kansas City Chiefs as my new GM, and Mike McDonald, who is currently the defensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens. He was my plan C to come here and be my new head coach and GM. And tonight, I finished my retrospective on fixing the Philadelphia Eagles with my plan D. And here it is: Ian Cunningham as my new GM and Mike Vrabel as my new head coach. Ian Cunningham, who's currently with the Bears, was here in Philadelphia, knows this organization, knows the way we do things, knows us, thought he'd be a perfect fit coming back from Chicago to take over for Howie. And then Mike Vrabel, an established, no-nonsense ex-player coach that I believe would be a bit better than the panderer cheerleader of head coach that we have now. So there you go. I finished it up. There's my plan A through my plan D of fixing this team. So I hope you enjoyed it. And I will continue on next year, because next year apparently there's going to be a whole other, it's going to be a whole other plan. And I'll probably start that once they go 0-3 to start the season. But yeah, looking forward to that next season. Freddie chiming in by saying Kelce is definitely coming back. I disagree. I don't think it's a definite, Fred. I think there's a lot of variables right now between Jason coming back. I think he maybe he sees the handwriting on the wall too a little bit with this team. So would I be surprised if he came back? No. Would I be surprised if he retired? No. Do I think he needs to retire? Maybe. Maybe it's time to move on. Is this like another Nick Sirianni type thing? One more year and see how it works out. He wasn't all that earth-shattering this year. He really wasn't. That offensive line was pretty uninspiring all season long. They didn't really do much. I don't know if they were asked not to do much, or they couldn't do much, or the offense wasn't layered for them to do much. I don't know. But it might be the time to kind of mix things up in that offensive line. So I'm going to say no. No. I hope he retires. But again, you're right. I don't want that to be my last image of Jason Kelce either. And was he cognizant of that? That could possibly be the last image of that we see of him as Eagle fans? Him wearing a Kansas City Chiefs hat, bare-chested, chugging a beer in Buffalo. Was he cognizant of that? It was absolutely disgraceful. And we should be embarrassed for him. And he should be embarrassed for us, because he disrespected us. He disrespected the city. He disrespected this organization. He disrespected the fans. And it is very, did I mention disrespectful? Very disrespectful. So now let's switch to the players, right? 19 free agents pending this season. And let's go over some of them, because it's an interesting, as I said, spicy list. Headline there by Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Marcus Mariota. Was he even still on the team? DeAndre Swift, Boston Scott, Zach Cunningham, Justin Evans, Shaquille Leonard, Opeta, Rashad Penny, Zacharias Morrow, Okunbamo, the tight end, Braden Mann, the punter, Jack Driscoll, Sean Bradley, Quez Watkins, and Jack Stoll. Does any name on that list grab you and say, you know what, we need to break the bank for this guy? I want to say it doesn't, with maybe the exception of DeAndre Swift. I think the Eagles should bring him back. I really do. I would love for him to come back. I think he was underused and could potentially be a fresher running back for us next season. But out of those 19, that's right, folks, 19 names, it's one more than it was last year. Now that means the roster is going to be remade over. Now, some of those guys will be brought back. Some of those, there's some draft picks on that list that are busts that will probably move on. Quez Watkins being one, Sean Bradley being another one. So what's this football team going to look like? And what kind of cap room is Howie going to have to operate with those contracts that he give out to Jalen Hurts, that he's given out to Darius Slay, and he's given out to James Bradbury? What are we going to be able to do with any of that type of stuff in free agency? What kind of free agents are we going to attract? What is next season? Is it going to be draft or nothing? Now, the Eagles have, I believe, 7 draft picks coming up. 1 first round, 2 second rounds, where they got like 4 or 5 picks in the top 100. There could be some damage done there if we had a different person drafting for us. I guess really the end state of my venom tonight is that as long as we as a fan base allow this to happen and accept this and want to pretend that we're not like the rest of the franchises out there, that we're okay, that what's happening to us right now is not the same things that's happened to Cleveland, happened to Houston, happening to Carolina, that we're somehow above it all. Until we accept that we're not above it all, until we accept that we have a madman as a GM and we have a controlling owner who will never allow this team to rise out of anything other than it is, then we're in for these roller coaster seasons every year. There will be no sustained winning. There will be no dynasty here. There will be a year-to-year, pray to God, we made the right signings in free agency. Pray to God 1 or 2 of our draft picks hit. And then we'll strip it down year to year and we will rebuild it. That is what you're in for the next, as long as Howie and Jeffrey are here. And it's depressing. It's disgusting. And it makes me question my Eagles fandom to the bone. I don't know if I can do any more of this. I put myself out on that island for a reason. I want this team freed. I want to be liberated from the bonds of oppression set forth by Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman. I want our team to be free again. And I want people in here that know how to build football teams, that know how to run football teams, that know how to coach football teams, leading us into the future. I don't want this anymore. And I'm seriously questioning my Eagle fandom up to this point. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope that was rousing, and I hope that kept you entertained. Ryan with his books. Ryan, what's up, man? Howie needs to be to get his freaking act together. Oh, man. What act? Well, maybe, you know what, Ryan, you might have hit it on the head. Maybe he is acting. That's the problem. And start valuing linebackers and secondary. Stop only looking at the DL, OL, and pass rush guys early in drafts. Also stop bringing in the vet linebackers 1-year deals and compete for the camp starting position. Evaluating special teams guys to transition into starting linebackers. You need to start drafting great pass coverage linebackers and secondary guys early. Ryan, you're asking for a lot from a guy that's shown none of that, the ability to do any of that. He's neglected an entire side of the defensive unit for years. And now you're going to, what, he's going to wake up tomorrow morning and be like, you know what? And I know what to do now. It's linebackers, it's safeties, it's cornerbacks. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to get them all this year. Right? Yeah, I'm going to fix it all now. We're going to bring a team back next year who's going to compete for a Super Bowl. I'm going to be able to reshape the defense through the draft in 1 year, because I haven't been able to do it up to this point, but I'm going to do it this year so that I can capitalize on the offensive side of the ball's current talent level to capitalize on a winning team. Oh, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do starting now, today. New Year's resolution for Howie Roseman. I am going to be a better drafter. It's over, folks, in Philadelphia. You heard it here first. Howie has seen the light. He will draft better starting today. He will abandon everything that he's done before, and he will start drafting better today. Ha! Damn. All week long in practice leading up to the game against the Eagles opposition teams, offensive coaches don't have very much to worry about with the Eagles defense besides the DL line, post, and rush. Opposing teams, offensive, god damn, Ryan, could you teams, offensive line coaches prepare to stop the Eagles DL pass rush all week long leading up to games. That's why the Eagles had such a very difficult time this year getting sacks on pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. Yes, absolutely. And we're going to fix it this year. This offseason, it changes. We're going to flip the switch because we've done nothing up to this point to kind of develop players or get them ready for that situation. We don't have a pipeline of players to push up, but we're going to start it now. We're going to draft, and we're going to hit on 7, 8, 9 players starting now because he's never done that, and he's never come close to doing that, but it changes now. But the Philadelphia Eagle fans out there want to believe that. The Philadelphia Eagle fans out there that are so goddamn brainwashed, they want to believe that that nonsense could happen. That Howie Roseman is not a fraud, that Nick Sirianni is not a panderer, and that Jeff Lurie is not a controlling, quiet version of Jerry Jones. The Eagle fan out there wants to believe that because they don't want to be sunk down into the muck with the rest of the franchises that have any problems. Wake up! Our franchise is in disarray, and it is a all hands on deck. It has to be fixed. I'm gonna say it got to be fixed. It has to be fixed. You got to wake the hell up. What's some of the other dreck I've heard? You don't fire Nick Sirianni after going to the Super Bowl last year. What the hell does that got to do with anything? You got players calling their own plays. You got players doing whatever the hell they want to do when they want to do it. What does that mean that he went to the Super Bowl last year? Who cares? The look is bad. You're damn right. But you know what? It's a worse look. A worse look is that goddamn head coach. That's a worse look. That's a worse look. It is a bad look. But it's a worse look to have this fraud, this clown as a head coach. And to marry him up with Howie Roseman is despicable. All I'm saying, if you want to be freed, if you want your team back, Philadelphia, we're going to have to take it back by force. We're in dark times. Dark, dark times. And what are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue to put your head in the sand? Are you going to continue to wear your green sunglasses? Are you going to accept that there's a problem? And are you going to accept that that problem has got to be fixed? That's all I'm saying. We got to keep it light. Ryan said the Eagles had way more of a coaching problem, play calling problems than offense and defense. Their offense is stacked and use it wrong with not enough running the run backs. Defense is personnel talent. Okay, so are you blaming it on the coordinators, Ryan? Because I went into a 5-minute diatribe back there about what does it matter? What does it really matter? I mean, come on. What kind of coordinators are we bringing here anyway? Right? I mean, who's coming here? Who is coming here under this situation? All right, who's going to come into this? And if the coordinators are so damn valuable, again, I'm kind of saying this over again, then what the hell is Nick Sirianni still doing here? What does he do? And why does it matter if we fire him or not? Because if it's the coordinators that are running, listen, I don't know. I've been around a lot of organized sports, and I still continue to be around them. I don't know too many head coaches that allow their coordinators to run everything. Right now, they allow them to be the face of the offense or the defense or the special team. But at the end of the day, they're the head coach. And at the end of the day, they're the quality control for every play that goes back and forth across the headsets. They're the ones that are saying, yay, nay, no, tweak this up, change this up, put this guy. That's what a head coach does. So to exonerate that fool for any kind of wrongdoing and blame it on the coordinators, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's always said, this is my offense. Brian Johnson's just calling the plays. Well, guess what? His offense stinks. But we're going to sit here and make excuses for him. We're going to say it's the coordinators. Well, that's not fire Nick Sirianni. Let's give him one more year. Let's give him one more year of what? It's amazing, man. Absolutely friggin' amazing. With reality staring right in your faces, you still don't want to accept it. And I don't mean you, Ryan. You're making a lot of good points. But there's a lot of Eagle fans and a lot of people on this network right here that don't want to accept the reality of the situation. For whatever reason. And I don't know what the reason is. But they don't want to accept it. You got to cut the cure. And right now, we're not curing a goddamn thing. We're going to sit and we're going to spin in neutral, in limbo, going nowhere. Oh, look, we hit on free agents this year. Great. Oh, we lost in the championship game. Oh, we didn't hit on free agents this year. We're not making the playoffs. So we didn't hit, we made the playoffs, we lost in the first round. That's what we're doomed for. And is that what we want to accept? Again, I go back to the very beginning of my rant. What has happened to the fan base? What has happened to this fan base? I don't get it. I don't get why they accept it. I don't. I truly don't. But that part of the show was brought to you by the good people over at the Cherry Law Firm for workman's compensation, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, criminal law. Dave Cherry is the man to call at 610-565-0300. Tell him Matty B, the Eagles' #1 fan, sent you, and he'll take great care of you, and we'll do awesome things for you. And by the way, if you're wondering, here on the Monday, I get the opportunity to kind of lead it off, and this is what we have to offer you this week. You're on the Edge of Philly Sports. NFL Draft Show is going to be coming up here in a little bit. Then we got some get processing with the Spurs, Sixers Spurs post game. Tomorrow, the Kelly Green Hour, Birds of the Round Table, Chalk Talk, and clearing the ice, baby, with the Flyers post game and the Lightning with me, your boy Matty B, on the call. So, and everything else that we have to offer here on the network as we get hot and heavy into January, into February. And guess what, folks? That's right. You smell it. I smell it. It's spring. That's right. It's like 7 degrees outside, but I smell spring. And you know what I smell? That's right. Phillies. Pitchers and catchers report February 14th, 2024. Make sure you tell the ones you love that it's about to start again on Valentine's Day. Pitchers and catchers will report. The rest of the team will report for full squad activities on February the 19th. And I believe the Phillies' first spring training game is February the 25th down there in Clearwater. It is back. Thank God. Thank God it's back, right? We need it. We need a distraction right now, because they've done such a great job in the offseason too, right? You know, we need that distraction. But the Fightins Final will be back. I can tell you that for a fact. I'm a big part of the Fightins Final. I'm going to tell you we're coming back. I don't have any details and all that right now, but we're working on that. I'm sure we'll start we'll start kind of paying attention to the Fightins Final here again very soon. We typically have a meeting in March about that. So stay tuned for the Fightins Final and the Phillies season. But let's now kind of focus in on the other team. The Flyers, right? The Flyers have been a great story. They've been exceeding expectations. They've been doing all the things right. Heading into tomorrow's game against the Lightning, they are 25-16-6, 56 points. Second place in the Metro, 4 points behind the Rangers, 1 point ahead of the Hurricanes. They had a golden opportunity over the weekend to really, they could have, I guess, tied the Rangers. I think it kind of would have worked out that way, or gone up ahead by a point. The Flyers could have been in first place at some point this weekend in the Metropolitan Division, but they couldn't figure out the Colorado Avalanche and the friggin' Ottawa Senators for some odd reason. And we're going to break that down. But before we break that down, I want to bring back something that happened earlier in the week, if you guys remember. This was the game on Thursday night against the Dallas Stars. Do you guys remember this game? The Owen Tippett goal, right? The magical goal, the goal of the season candidate by Owen Tippett against the Dallas Stars. And I wanted to take an opportunity, because I haven't had the opportunity to properly break it down. And I just wanted to kind of point out a few things, how really, truly special this play was on all kinds of different hockey levels, right? So let's take a look at this thing right now. Here you got it. This is the beginnings of the goal. As you can see, Dallas is playing. Obviously, if you take a look at the score up there, it's 4-1 with about 5 minutes and 36 seconds to go into the third period. So the Dallas Stars are obviously pressing for some offense. That is why they have 4 people deep and only 1 defenseman back. And that's going to happen in those situations where you're desperate for some offense. It's late in the game, and you're going to set yourself up for situations like this. And Owen Tippett did the best he could with it. So we're going to run it here a little bit up the wall. Let's stop it there. So Owen Tippett's coming out of the zone. Now, we've talked about this on the Flyers post-game show a lot, about the definitions of what good ice and what bad ice is. Now, in Hockey-Ease, good ice is everything from the dot to the dot, right? See the dots? You got the dots up here. The dot to the dot, all this is all good ice. What's bad ice is from the dot to the boards on both sides. Now, that is why that's called bad ice. It's because typically, if you're operating in that area anywhere on the ice, you have a very low percentage chance to generate some offense, right? Because you're so far off to the side or you're so far off into the corner, there's low percentage stuff going to happen in this situation. Now, to Dallas's credit, and this guy right here, the defenseman's credit, he's caught on an island and he has no return, right? He's stuck. And it's really going to be him and him. And this is not the optimal situation for any score to be in one-on-one. It stinks, right? Because there's no – you always would like to have some support. And as you can see, this guy's signaling. I think there's a line change happening for the Flyers at this time. So this is Owen Tippett's show all the way. This was really a low percentage play coming out of the zone, but Owen Tippett makes it better. Now, look what the defenseman did. So the defenseman's playing this brilliantly. He is pushing or angling. We like to call it angling in hockey. We don't push because that's a penalty, but angling. He's angling Owen Tippett into bad ice. He's cutting off certain avenues of approach into the center part of the ice with his body, and he's pushing, without pushing, Owen Tippett into bad ice because that's hockey 101. Make him operate in that bad ice position because it's not going to go well for him. So Owen Tippett does the only thing Owen Tippett can do in this situation. This was a brilliant play because it was a play of desperation. Owen Tippett, as you can see, has nothing happening here. There's no support coming. I believe Noah Cates is a little bit off screen right now. Excuse me. He'll enter the frame here in a second, but he is going to be neutralized by these 2 guys that are closing in on the play. Now, again, as a Dallas Star goaltender, I'm not concerned at all right now. I'm not, because I got a defenseman that's pushed Owen Tippett off the bad ice, and I got some help coming here, and I got me. So listen, whatever Owen Tippett's going to do here should not be that earth-shattering, but this is why it's the goal of the year. And then Owen Tippett, now this, again, Owen Tippett in this situation has nothing to do but this, and it's a brilliant instinctive hockey move. He forces himself into center ice. There's Noah Cates back here. Again, completely neutral to the play. He's not going to be able to assist. He's got 2 defensemen kind of stopping him. These guys, now obviously this guy instinctively is going to attempt to kind of come backdoor, but he's way behind the play. He's not going to be able to catch up. Now, if Owen Tippett decided to do something other than what he did, that play might have been neutralized by this guy. But look what Tippett does. He uses his body as a screen. He does a pivot move. Do you know how difficult that is to do while skating full speed, stopping and turning all at the same time while positioning your body just right so that you can create momentum with the turnaround to assist you on the backhand, which of course he does, and then a beautiful instinctive backhand shot over the goalie's shoulder and for the goal. Absolutely 100% goal of the year type stuff there from Owen Tippett on Thursday night against the Stars. Amazing goal, a hockey instinct goal. And Owen Tippett was rewarded there. But the Flyers heading into the weekend had an opportunity, red hot, man, 5-game winning streak. And they came up short in not 1 game, but in 2 games. And the way they lost those games are very disturbing. I mentioned at the top of the show, they kind of reverted back or regressed. Sorry, Jalen, but they regressed back to some of their last season maneuvering. They were victims of bad defense and victims of very bad goaltending, both by Sam Ersson and Carter Hart. Carter Hart had a horrible game against the Avalanche. Horrible game. He was taken out of the game in the third period for Sam Ersson, and Ersson really didn't do much better. I mean, he gave up 1 goal on 9 shots, which was a pivotal goal in the time. The Flyers were down 5-4. They made a comeback in that game. They were down 5-2, made a comeback to make it 5-4. Then the Flyers took a bad penalty, and they were committing way too many penalties this weekend. Very undisciplined Flyers performance over the weekend, and very alarming, actually. And, of course, Ersson gives up the goal, makes it 6-4, and then they pull him, and it's an open net, and that's how you get 7-4. And then on yesterday against the Senators and Claude Giroux, they're up 3-1, rocking the Senators to sleep. The Senators had no business coming back in that game. Not one iota of business coming back in that game. And somehow, though, they turned it on in the second period. The Flyers decided to only play 20 minutes, and then that was apparently going to be the end of the game. The Flyers should be taking anything off against anybody. They have not earned anything yet. They haven't won anything yet either. And this is what Tortorella is going to have to do with this team. He's going to have to kind of, save them from themselves right now. They're having some success, yes, but if they think they can take time off in a game and expect to weather that storm, that's not going to happen. They got to push it 100% all the time, and that is because that's got them to where they are now. But they took the second period off on Sunday, and then that cost them the game, and they ended up losing 5-3 yesterday to the Senators. So heading into the All-Star break, the Flyers have 3 more games left: Tampa, Detroit, and Boston. And these are going to be extremely telling games heading into the All-Star break, because these are against Eastern Conference teams that the Flyers may see a little bit later on in the season, watermark games, gauge games where the team can really maybe kind of put a mark up on the wall and say, you know what, we're right here, and we need to go out there and play that way. They've had success against all 3 of them this year, but it's been limited success. They've only seen Tampa once and Boston, I think, once as well. But it's going to be interesting to see how they react, not only to the way they lost this weekend, but to the competition they face this week, and then heading into a big-time layoff. They play on Saturday, and they don't play again until like February 2nd because they go through their 5-day mandated union break and then the All-Star break. So a lot of time off coming for the Flyers here in the very near future. So these 3 games, they are not playoff games, and I understand that. But I'm going to be watching very specifically for a lot of things in these 3 games. It's going to be their effort, obviously. It's going to be the ability of the goaltending to kind of right itself, regardless if it's Ersson or Carter Hart. They both got to figure it out. And it's going to be the offense. A lot of talk has been around what this team might need going forward. It's really plain as the nose on your face. They need a center. They need a true number 1 centerman. They need a goal scorer. And I don't know if mortgaging the future in a trade during the deadline is the way to do that. But Tortorella has gone on record, and he has said it a couple times. He said it back earlier in the season or before the season began, and he said it earlier in the season. Do not fall in love with the players in this locker room, regardless of what success we have, because it's going to hinder the process. We cannot lose sight of the process, that this is a rebuild and that players are going to have to be traded. And I agree with him. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Maybe not so much at the deadline, but definitely this summer. But we got to get some more offense. The Flyers I believe, are averaging slightly or at 3 goals a game, and they're giving up. And they're they're averaging 3 goals a game, and they're surrendering 2.8 goals a game. That's way too close of a differential between goals scored and goals allowed. It's way too close, especially for a team that is currently out shooting its opponents 1,586 to 1,346 for 33.7 shots for and 28.6 shots against every game. So the Flyers are, decisively out shooting their opponents in every game, but they're not outscoring them by more than a percentage points. That's disturbing a little bit. And that tells you that this team is not complete. That tells you this team is lacking some serious offense. Now, the Flyers made a move today. Bobby Brink was sent down to Lehigh. Ole Lixell was sent back up. He's been tearing it apart down there in the AHL. Bobby Brink's been struggling a little bit. Really can't kind of seem to find his footing. He's going to be good. He really is going to be a good player one day. But Bobby's going to head back down to Lehigh, maybe to try to work on some things. Tortorella's been a big fan of his, but Tortorella's also been a big, opponent of his too, of trying to point out all the things he needs to work on. So Bobby Brink is now down to Lehigh, and Lixell is up here with the Flyers starting tomorrow night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And of course, we'll have you covered here on the Edge of Philly Sports with the Clear the Ice. I am on the call tomorrow, and I believe it's Pat and Mike the rest of the week. So we're going to have you covered for all of that and much, much more, as I mentioned here on the Edge of Philly Sports. But don't forget, that's right, if you want to travel like the pros and you want to go to games like the pros, you got to head over to Philly Sports Trips, because they got everything that you need to travel like the pros, everything. Not only do they offer great Flyers trips, Phillies trips, Eagles trips, well, they got great Phillies trip coming up here. They got 3 trips heading down the Clearwater this spring to catch the Phillies. Of course, the trip, the big Stadium Series trip to New Jersey, the Flyers Devils on February 17th, which is something you might be seeing me at, and everything else that they'll have to offer. And then, of course, when the schedule comes out in May, we'll rev the Eagle machine back up. So head over to Philly Sports Trips right now for everything if you want to travel like the pros. And one last plug for those who do not go on Philly Sports Trips and you need tickets, so then head over to Sherry's Tickets right now. The best tickets, no hidden fees, sports concert theater, www.sherrytickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. Save an additional 10% when you enter the promo code EOP10. And head over there right now, because that's going to wrap me up tonight, folks. It's been a great show. Listen, it's time to stop fooling ourselves. It's time to stop thinking we are above it all. It's time to stop wondering that we can't be like the other NFL franchises, because we are. And in some ways, we're worse than some. We're not playing football right now because of a team that was 10-1, not a pretty 10-1. But they can only win one game going the rest of the way. There's something to that. But we're allegedly running back our head coach. We're allegedly running back our fraud of a GM for yet another run of this. It's time to stop fooling ourselves. It's time to rip off the green sunglasses and accept the reality as it is. This franchise is in disarray. This franchise is dysfunctional, and this franchise needs to start over again. And we got to fire the people that need to be fired. And Jeff Lurie is culpable too. Jeff Lurie is, in my opinion, a quiet Jerry Jones. He's a meddling owner. And I'm not very sure what the future of this team is going to be. But we're going to find out Wednesday, because the Eagles are going to have their end of season press conference, and then whatever propaganda they're going to spread at this one. But make sure that you're tuned in to that, and make sure you're tuned into the rest of the stuff we have here on EEOP. And I'm glad that you guys were able to come back. It's a good show. Good to get back in the saddle. I was gone for a while, scheduling issues. But as I mentioned, the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, we will wrap up our season on February 17th, right after the Super Bowl. And we'll tie up everything in a nice, pretty little bow for you. Until then, until we talk again next week, that is the news, and I'm out of here.